Welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm your host, Anna.gray. The best thing about being a nurse and entrepreneur over the last 25 years are the relationships I've developed and the people I've met. As a legal nurse consultant, I wanted you to hear from those amazing people in the legal and healthcare communities. I wanted you to hear who they are and to celebrate them with me. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered. Let's dive into the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I am super excited to have my guest. This is the third season, so it's so exciting for me to have new guests on here, getting to know new people. So Maria, thank you so much for being here. I'm really, really looking forward to getting to know you more and learning about your journey. So I appreciate you being here.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. This is great. I was really excited this morning. I woke up, I'm like, today I get to talk to Anna. So yeah,
it's podcast day. Awesome. Okay. So I know, so it's daytime here and it looks like it's probably nighttime there, or, it's also winter. So, gets dark earlier, but where in the world are you coming from? What part of
I'm in Illinois, in Chicago.
Okay. So you're in the Midwest.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
So
Chicago.
It's 5 o'clock over here. So
it's what time? Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock, but it gets dark at like 4:30 now. It's depressing.
I know. It is really that, especially for those of us that go in the hospital to work and you go in early in the morning, it's dark. You leave late at night and it's dark. Yeah. It's the life of a nurse, right?
I know.
Okay. So you're coming from Chicago. Now, have you always been in Chicago?
No, I was actually born and raised in Mexico. I'm from Mexico City. And I came here for a year when I was 16 and I met my wonderful husband. And here we are. We've been together for 21 years and married for almost 18. And we have 7 kids.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Yes.
Let's unwrap this a little bit here. This is what I love about this. It's about legal nurses, but it's really about the person, honestly. It's my opportunity to share with the world, who you are. So let's unwrap this. So you came here when you were 16. What brought you to the States?
So my parents are always big fans. They were always big fans of go learn other languages, kind of, and they've sent us. I'm one of 12 kids actually. Wow. So we were all some of my siblings, they went to Germany and I came to Chicago and for a year to learn English. So
wow, that's incredible. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you fell in love with Chicago. Or you fell in love with a boy and then fell in love with Chicago.
Yes, exactly.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, but I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, I met somebody, I think I'm going to marry him. And he's like, you're 16. No, this is not happening.
Right.
And 3 weeks later, my mom was on a flight here to meet him. And my mom is like, wow, this is serious. I'm like, yeah. My dad is like, you need to at least finish high school. You could have come back. Sure. So, so I went back to Mexico for a couple of years and And then moved here formally.
Wow.
Yep.
That's so exciting. Oh, I love that. Okay. So this is an odd question, but when you came back, did you come back right in the winter? Did you come back in the summer? Because Chicago is has its seasons for sure.
Yes. I came back in the summer, after I finished high school. And then I was there for 3 years after we met. We were doing long distance. Yeah. And then we're like, no, that's it. So then we got married in July. Yeah. And then that's when I moved here. So
for good. Okay. Yes. And then did you had kids right away or?
Yes, we always knew that we wanted to have a big family. So, but just funny story, not really funny, but when I was 17, actually shortly after we had met, I got sick with Guillain-Barré syndrome. And I was paralyzed from head to toe. And then they told us you might not be able to have kids. So we were just, I remember talking about this. We're if we can't have kids, we'll just adopt 10 of them. We always wanted a big family. We're very open to adoption as an option in the honeymoon. Yeah, we came back, and then 3 weeks later, we're like, okay, well, that was
Yes.
definitely not a problem. And then we kept on having them, and we just had our last one. It's she's 1, so
Oh my goodness.
yes,
Wow.
yes,
You are definitely outnumbered. That's exciting.
yes, oh yeah, for sure, yes.
Yeah, you didn't really have time to think about the whole adoption thing. You had a half a second
No,
and then that was it.
no, but we did talk about it before because we knew that it was a possibility.
Sure.
But yeah, we were
Sure.
blessed with
Yeah. Oh, I love
having
that. I
kids.
love that. And
Yes, yes,
I love the fact that you had thought about adoption too, because that's the route that I took. So I can relate to that. Okay. So you said, tell me more about when you were diagnosed. Was that what?
yeah.
How old were you?
So like I remember like I had like the GI bug or something. I was in Mexico already, and then like I've been sick for a couple of days, and then I got up one morning, and then I was gonna go to the bathroom, and I fell out of bed, and I just couldn't walk anymore. So I called my mom. We had a pretty big house because there's 12 of us, so I'm like screaming, but I was like we had like 3 levels. And like she couldn't hear me, so one of my siblings went up there to get her, and then she came down and she's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I can't walk." And then at that point, my eyes were already like kind of wondering. One of them had like lost the muscle. It's kind of wondering. So mom is like, "Okay, we gotta go to the hospital." So I spent 21 days in the PQ, and I was like completely paralyzed. I had an NG tube, like everything. But I mean, I don't see this as like something horrible. Like actually, I'm so blessed that I had that because then I was able to realize that I wanted to be a nurse. That's when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And my husband came, we were dating there, but he went to Mexico. He was there, and he really got to see my family, and then my family really got to meet him, like how wonderful of a person he was, and he was right with me the whole time. And so I think about it, it's just it's a blessing, and it just kind of put us in the right path for for the rest of our lives. I mean, I was paralyzed for about 6 months, so could have gone without that part, but I had to do like physical therapy and occupational therapy, and like I missed like a whole semester in high school, and but it was. I mean, it is what it is. So
wow.
But it was.
Did you have any lingering complications outside of that? I mean, over the years, or was it just resolved and that was it?
Like it pretty much resolved. I think within like 10 months to a year, I kind of looked normal. I would say normal. I wasn't in a wheelchair. I wasn't I wasn't using a cane anymore. I do feel like my hands move a little bit funny. People don't notice it, but like my sister, she's like, yeah, it does. You do move a little weird, but I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think I'm pretty good.
To me.
Yeah. So, but that's just like if you really, really pay attention. But I don't think anybody would like ever notice. So no, we're very, very blessed, very lucky that I have like nothing. So
yeah. Wow. And so then that's usually my question is, what led you into wanting to go into nursing? And clearly that story is something that hit, near and dear to you. So what was it about the nursing profession when you were a patient that it clicked with you? Like, was there someone that?
Yeah. So then there's this one nurse, her name was Juanita, and she was just so sweet. And she's like, you can do this. You're going to be okay. And I remember like going in, I told her, I'm like, oh, my boyfriend's coming and I want to marry him. And, I was like, well, excited about it. But then I kind of stopped talking for a little bit because like the muscles in my mouth were not working anymore. And she was like, oh, like, remember, John, you got to be with them and blah, blah. And she just kind of like really gave me like a big boost. And she like really just took really good care of me. And I don't know, I just kind of put it in my head. I mean, I kind of had already thought about it a little bit before, but like being there, I was just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then not once did I like question it. It was like, okay, this is it. And then that's it.
Yeah. So you knew exactly what you're going to do. So then you come back, you come to Chicago, you get married. Is that when you went to nursing school? When did you go to nursing school?
Yeah, so I couldn't go right away because we had to do like the whole paperwork. I had to become a resident, a citizen, and all of that. Right. So it took me about 6 months to kind of get everything started. So, but at that point, I was already pregnant. So I went through nursing school. It took me 4.5 years instead of 4 years, but we had 3 kids. So I would say that's pretty good. 4.5 years with 3 kids, it was pretty good. So yeah, pretty much, right away. So I finished when I was 24. So, and then I knew I wanted to be in the ER. I just like the journaling craziness.
Right.
So yeah.
As if you didn't have enough going on at home with 3 kids. Let's just add on the emergency room.
Yes. That's me though. That's just, I'm always looking for something crazy.
Did you know that when you were going through nursing school? Did you have an experience in the ER where you were like, oh yeah, this is where I want to be? Or did you know ahead of time that that's where you wanted to be? Or was there something that clicked for the ER?
I don't know. Actually, now that you ask about it, I don't, I just kind of might always
landed there.
Yeah. Yes. And then I've only been in the ER. Like I did my capstone in the ER and then I got hired where I did my capstone and I've been in the ER for almost 13 years.
Yeah. Have you been at the same facility this whole time?
No. Okay. Like the actually facility where I started closed down. That's how long I've been a nurse. I know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh. Yeah. So I've been to different facilities around here. I do like seeing different hospitals it's very interesting to see how different protocols happen at different places. So yeah.
Yeah. So you've bounced locally. You didn't do any traveling. You're like me.
Well, I did. So with COVID, when COVID happened, I actually went to New York for 5 weeks and I worked 32 12s in a row. Wow. Do not recommend. Yes. So I did that for 5 weeks. And then I went to Texas for 2 weeks, but that was just like a 14-day quick. But other than that, everything has been local. Yeah.
You did the COVID travel.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That's crazy. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you came back home and you were like, I'm not doing that again.
And it was, but you know what? It was like, it was, and it was very rewarding. It was completely different. Like it's not like a normal like nursing. I was actually like when I was going there, I was asking God, I'm like, just show me like what you want me to do. Like, am I here to save people? Am I here to like, and then ended up being like a resident was there on her days off. She would come in and on her phone or her iPad, she would call families and they would FaceTime before we were intubating patients. So then we just kind of decided, okay, we're not going to save all these people. Like, it's, like let's do something else for them. So because 9 out of 10 we're not coming out of intubation. So then we just started kind of like calling their families and this. So then I felt like, okay, so this is probably what I'm supposed to be doing here. So it was, like I said, it was very different. Of course, I was doing all their ER thing, like nursing things, but that was something that I kind of took up and I was like, doing it. It was very hard because you knew that very likely this was the last time that they were going to see their family. So it was, we felt like it was important.
I don't want to go
something.
back to that, but what an incredible experience. Yeah, I mean, we all have our COVID stories that we'll never forget. That's obviously incredibly impactful for you and something that you'll never forget and something that I'm sure have talked to your kids about or will it's just this blip in time that hopefully we'll never experience again. But you were there for a purpose, and I love hearing that too because while we do our job daily, we're nurses, and there is something about nursing that has this added element to it that like I didn't expect to be a nurse when I grew up, even though there is it's framed downstairs. I wrote something in like second grade that says I want to be a nurse, and I don't remember this at all, but I wrote it, and it was like I want to be a nurse and I want to help people or something like that. My mom saved it, and like I don't know how or why, and somehow I ended up here, and there's a reason why, and I think we all have kind of that. There's this added layer that's there.
Yeah.
So I love that you shared that. And I'm sure that our audience out there will connect with that, so especially those that have went through the same thing. I know that I've talked to plenty of people on this podcast that have had similar experiences.
Yeah.
Okay. So you come back home during COVID. I mean, after COVID or wherever we were in that blip.
Yeah.
And then you started back up locally at another facility, or did you go back?
No, so like the facility that I was at for many years I was registry, so I only had to do like 4 shifts every like 6 weeks, something like that. So I did my 4 shifts and then I kind of left and then I came back and I did my others, 4 shifts. So
Yeah.
I didn't have to like leave. And then that was when it was like really slow here.
Sure.
Like nobody was showing up to the ER. So then they're like, yeah, you can go. Like we would be flexing you anyway. So, just go. So they were wonderful with that. So I came back and it just kind of picked up where I was at and just,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about how you got into. There is one thing I want to talk about once we do start talking about the legal nurse consulting, because this is a part that fascinates me, and I know that you talk about it on your social media. But talk to me about how you got into legal nursing. How did that come about?
So about 2 years ago, I think, give or take, I was working in the ER and a patient was very aggressive and he like grabbed my hand and he said, I'm going to kill you, please, 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 all these things, I'm going to come back and get you, blah, blah. So, as you know, there's a lot of, that type of violence in the work and we're like, I'm like, we're done. Like I'm done dealing with this. Like it's not okay for people to talk to me like this. So we called the police and then we made a report. And then I got really involved with risks about it. Like we were just kind of talking about it. And I was telling one of my friends about what happened. And she's like, like, this is very interesting, the whole like, legal aspect about it. And then she goes, there's legal nurses out there. I was like, there's what? I didn't even heard, the term. And she's like, I actually do that. And, I like kind of look at medical records and you kind of start talking about it. And then I'm like, oh, this sounds really, really interesting. And then the more I looked into it and I was like, okay, this is something I want to do. And by now you probably know that I'm like really crazy. And whenever I put something in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And, my wonderful husband is always very supportive. And he's like, okay, whatever, whatever you want. And then I took the Vicky Malasso course. And as I was taking it, we found out we were pregnant with our last baby, with our 7th one.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. But I was like, okay, well, this is even, more motivation. One more motivation that, that I have to do it.
Sure.
And then I had a really complicated, and then I had a really complicated pregnancy. So I kind of stopped there for a little bit. And then I was in the hospital for about 7 weeks, the last 7 weeks of my pregnancy.
Wow. Yeah.
So I had a lot of time to like really put time into it. And I, really started like doing more things about it. And
so you jumped in with both feet and you were like, this is exactly what I want to do.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is one thing that you talk about on your social media is that audit trails, right? So I am an audit trail nerd as well. I call myself that only because in part of my journey, I had become a senior clinical systems analyst. And so I was the only RN in the IT department at a large hospital here in LA. And I, was like behind the scenes with the EMR and dealing with, the database and how it works. And so I became kind of an audit trail nerd without knowing what it was.
What you were doing.
I didn't know the implication later on until I was in legal nursing. And then I go, oh my gosh, it correlates so much to what I used to do. So whenever someone talks about audit trails, I love it because I know how valuable that is. So tell me a little bit more about how you got, exposed to audit trails and how important they are. Like, let's just talk about that because I don't think we've talked about that much on this podcast.
So, crazy enough, I've like kind of been praying about like, just like give me something different that all of the clinical are doing, right? Yep. And, just like send me a sign of like something. And I came across like Sarah Pasha, she was like, this audit trail class, I had really no idea what it was. Of course, you know that they can track every movement, right? In the hospital, they always tell you, I can track everything that you do.
Yep.
And then then I saw it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And she's like, it's a class and it's in Chicago. And then I saw how she had all these court dates and the positions. I'm like, yeah, she must be doing. At that point, I didn't even know that she was an attorney. I thought that she was a nurse. I was like, well, let's do it. Why not, right?
Right.
So again, I told my husband, he's like, yeah, honey, whatever you want. I'm always right here. So
Right.
So I go to the class and I'm like, holy cow, this is insane. I can't believe this is that all of this is out there and not.
Yeah.
I mean, now that I've been doing it quite often.
Right.
I'm like, nobody really knows about it. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So then I took the class and then pretty much within a week of taking the class, I got my first audit trail. And it was one of those wow. I mean, the attorney's I've heard about them. I don't know really what they are. Just, he's like, why don't you put up a presentation for us? So I did a presentation. And the first audit trail that I did, and I was talking about it and, but I was doing it with what I had found for that specific case. So it was so wonderful because they already knew the case very well, obviously. Sure. And then they understood it. And then, so I'm saying it and doing it. They were this one attorney's if you could see my face, it's literally my jaw is down to the ground.
Yeah.
She's I can't even
Yeah.
So the findings were wonderful. And she, and then I used that for the position. I had a deposition with that case, and then I used it, and it was just, I feel going to the positions with the knowledge of audit trail is just, you're a different level because it's not just well, my opinion, which although opinions are
sure.
Obviously they're super important, but it's okay, now my opinion is based on this as well. It's not just what they want me to see in the medical record. This is what actually did happen, and this is why I can tie it in, and this is why I can tell you A, B, and C, because I have A, B, and C here to prove that as well.
Yeah.
So I feel my depositions are so much more powerful now that I have the audit trail behind me, and I love telling the attorneys about them. And the more I do it, it's just amazing to me that most attorneys don't use them and they don't know about them. And it's there's a whole story. This is actually what happens. And as a nurse,
with an EMR.
Because, so I've had attorneys say well, we have an inspection team that they go and inspect the medical records. And I'm it's great, it's wonderful, but as a nurse and as a medical provider, I know what they're thinking because this is what I live every single day. It's not just I'm an IT person and I go behind the scene and see that versus okay, I know why before he put this note, he looked at it 10 times. It's because he wanted to see what was happening. So it made sense.
Yeah.
So I kind of try to explain that to them. And once I explain it to them, they're oh yeah, it makes a lot more sense that that you do it versus an IT person because you're there. I live this. I know how things work, and I know the reasoning behind what they're doing in these audit trails. So I think that is very powerful and very impactful. And my attorneys have been this one guy, he's you are a genius. He's literally you just added zeros to my case. This is just because now you're proving what you're just trying to show, right? I think that's what it is. You have the proof right there because as nurses, you kind of know what was happening, right? But you can't just say I know because I do it,
Sure. Yeah.
So,
right.
So
you could in the old days with a handwritten record because that's all you had, but yes, there's a trail. So on that first case that you had your audit trail and you did your presentation to your attorney, was it something that they had already requested or was it something that you said to them, I need the audit trail so that I can go through it for you? Because naturally they don't necessarily know what they want or need. So was it something that you had requested and continue to request?
So he said something I kind of, I mentioned it. I'm oh, why don't we get it? And he's oh, I always ask for them, but I don't have anybody to look at them. So I was well, ask for it, and let me see it. And, fortunately, we did not have to fight for this one at all. I mean, they gave it to us. It was like unlocked, it was like perfect. The Excel form and everything. So I didn't have to do any of that fighting per se. And then when we asked for the supplemental, then it was like, they gave us all the discovery as well. So that was actually, it was great because it was my first one and we were able to just kind of like go
too hard.
It didn't have to jump. Because now it's like half of the thing that I do is like going back and forth with these attorneys of like giving me the darn, audit trails. But then like something really interesting about this too is like I was just talking to another attorney about it. And, I was she's like, I always ask them and I like never get them. And I was like, can I help you write the email? Let me just write this email.
I love that.
With a state right, and then I will make sure that we get them, right? And she's like, give it a try. So I sent her the email. She sent the email. And then she literally like probably 24, 48 hours later, she's like, Marie, you're not going to believe this. She's like, I've been asking for this for like a year. You talk about the ACM standards and I got it. Like, here you go. She's like, where have you been all these years? She's like, I've been, and then I was telling her what I found and she's like, oh my gosh, this is like, again, it's just such a like, oh my gosh, it's always like, oh, I can't believe you found all of that.
Is that all stuff that you had learned when you took the course? Was that, these are what you're looking for. This is what the attorneys need to ask for because they don't know what they're asking for clearly or how to ask even. Exactly. So that was all stuff that you had learned by going through the course that you had.
Yes. And then she had another class. So it was the advanced class and I went to it. And so she is wonderful. She's like, whenever I have a question, she is like, yeah, no problem. I'll help you. So I've learned so much from her. And then I'm like, taking all these notes when I have.
Can you say her name again, just for the audience? And I'm going to just.
Yeah. Saira Pasha.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So she's wonderful. And, she kind of goes through, because she's been doing this for a long time. And she's just, she's like, if you ask about it like this way, and if you say, so it's just, she's so wonderful. And I've learned so much from her. She's a genius, to be honest. Like, she's like wired differently. She's so smart.
I love that. I love the fact that, a lot of us hear the same names. And it's nice when there's somebody else out there that's super helpful and that we praise that person. I mean, that's really what this podcast is about too. It's just like everybody deserves to be lifted up because we all have our superpowers, right? Your superpower is your journey, your experience, what you come to the table with, and that's what makes you valuable. And everybody has their own value. And so when we can support that, that's key. And that's what I love about doing this is that, now you're going to get an influx. Let me tell you, you're going to get an influx of messages about audit trails. I guarantee you, because every guest on here gets an influx of messages for whatever their superpower is or, their story or their journey. And it just makes me so happy. So just be prepared.
Because I get so passionate about them when I start talking.
I love it. Like, no, I can. So that's why we're digging in because I love that stuff. I mean, that's the stuff. I'm such a nerd about that stuff because it is so valuable. In fact, I was just telling you when we got on that I was glad that this was an afternoon podcast because I was able to. It's my day off from the hospital. I was able to get some work done this morning. And sure enough, I found the one red flag thing. I had been going through I'm just doing a behind the scenes report, but I had been going through this record for the last, week and a half. And I really just sat down this morning and I was just reviewing it. And I found the one little needle in the haystack and it had to do with the timeline. And it was like, oh my gosh, here it is. And I texted my attorney and I was like, oh my gosh, I found it. And it had to do with the timeline. It didn't have to do with my knowledge per se, but it had to do with the record and what was done when and what was missed. One little timestamp made a huge difference. So I can appreciate that. And I love that you shared that. because we don't talk about that much. And I love that you're passionate about it, and that it is something that you can take to the table to your attorneys and just say how valuable you are. Yes, I'm a nurse. Yes, I work in the ER. Yes, I have all this experience, but here's how I can help you even more. So I love that.
Yeah. And then I think it also helps a lot with like in a defense case. Yeah. I mean, I had one where I did the audit trails and they're like, well, the nurse didn't care. I'm like, no. Okay. She didn't, it doesn't show that she charted anything, but she was in the chart over and 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 over again. Like maybe, yeah, she didn't chart. I'm not saying that she did. It's not there, but you can tell how she was like doing she was like in and out of the chart doing this. So, I mean, so you can help with the defense too.
Sure,
I feel like it's always easier to go with, the plaintiff, and he's like, well, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. But it's like, yes, but she was also like on this, like, trying to save this patient. I mean, it's just, there's so much more to auditors than just seeing what they didn't do, right?
Yeah.
So I think
picture's bigger.
Yes. So with the defense, it's also there. So a lot of defense attorneys have told me like, well, I don't like audit trails. They're not good for me. I'm like, if you have a case that is defendable, like it's there. Like the proof is going to be there. So let me show you. So when I was telling the attorney about it, he's like, oh my gosh, yes, this totally makes sense. I'm like, see, this is the whole story behind it. Plaintiff or defense. It's it can go both ways. So I think that's something that maybe is not spoken enough about, that it can it helps.
And I've probably not spoken a lot about, because not only do the attorneys not know or don't see the value in it, but also nurses don't necessarily, they know it exists because we know that you can track everything that you do in a chart. They know it exists, but they don't necessarily know how it exists or how it can help them. So it's probably not something spoken enough on their end as well for that reason. So yeah, we can talk about this for days.
I know. Yes, I really could. And I would be like, oh, excited about it. Just as you will be.
I love that. Okay. So can you give some piece of advice for a legal nurse who's been doing this, who kind of wants to just like add an extra layer to their portfolio? Here's what else I can do to you. What would be their first step? You don't have to give the whole, like, here's what to do, but what would you tell them their first step should be if they go, oh yeah, I know the value of audit trails and I would love to dig further into that? What would your advice be?
I think that you have to take a class. Like you have to. Yeah. I mean, you can't, there's no way that you can know how to do this without a class. Sure. I mean, there's no way. Like, I mean, at least not me. Maybe somebody else smarter than me, I wouldn't have been able to do it with that class. So, definitely take a class. I know that because Tyra doesn't offer them very often, but I think Amy Plus does that. I think there's audit trail nurses or something. Definitely taking some kind of course and see if this is something that you're interested in doing, because it is tedious and you got to be like looking at things and opening hiding columns and open columns and blah blah blah. But and also like don't get frustrated, because at first it can be hard and like you kind of don't understand it and how did I do this, but like the more you start doing it, it's just like literally just like click through them,
Yeah. I have a question regarding that, because obviously you're looking at more than just the 1,200 pages of PDFs. When you're looking at this, how do you add this to your bottom line? It's like it obviously takes you more time to review. How does that look like to you? Is it the same amount of time as you would take, or would you bill longer because you're digging? Obviously, you're digging for the needle in the haystack. What does that look like for you for billing?
So I mean, it's hourly. Like it's
so you're gonna bill
actually so audit trails, they don't take a long time. Once you kind of figure out how to do it, it doesn't take it does not take a long time. So like usually at first I kind of look at everything and to see who was there, like in a chart or whatever, and then after that I just kind of go through like the key persons and what I'm trying to do, and then just kind of I do like to compare the audit trail with the deposition with the medical record.
Sure.
And then just kind of see if there's any kind of discrepancy or
Yeah, no, that's actually very helpful to understand. Even, and for those attorneys that would be listening to this as well, it's like, well, is this going to cost me more because it's going to take you more time? And yes, it will. But when, like you said, you know what you're looking for. So in the grand scheme of things, you're not going to look, not going to take you, 10 more hours.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like maybe 3 to 5 hours. Like I probably will not spend more than 4 hours if I'm not finding anything, because then it will just, like I'm wasting their money, I'm wasting my time. Like it's not. Yeah. So like, just kind of look at it. But to be honest, I've been very familiar with all of the cases that I've been doing rituals with. So I kind of know exactly what I'm looking for.
Yep.
So I'm not going to spend hours and hours and hours and hours.
Right.
So it's it's a lot easier when you're very
to your tool.
Exactly. And it's a lot easier when you're very familiar with the case, because you know exactly what's happening. So,
Yeah. Makes complete sense. No, that makes complete sense. I'm glad you clarified that too, because I try to think of questions that someone would ask, and that's a pretty simple answer that makes complete sense. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I found that is very interesting. Sorry, just one more thing about that.
Sure.
So like with some charting systems, you can see if things have been back charted. Like if the nurse charted something with like Epic, it's great. It says like charted this time, back charted for this time. Like you can see it. But with other ones, with Meditech and with Cerner, sometimes you don't see that. And that's what I just found out in this article that I did a couple of weeks ago. And it was like, it was back charted like hours after the incident, but you couldn't in the actual medical record. It was beautiful. It was charted like at the perfect time. But then once I went through the article, I'm like, well, he couldn't have charted that time because he was not in the chart at all when this happened.
Yep.
So then I asked for like, all of like, the notes like from the article, and then I was able to see that it was hours later, and then I was able to see, because then they asked me like, well, how do you know that he wasn't so busy? I was like, that is a perfect answer. That is a perfect question, but he was in the chart, and I counted 52 times before he charted this, so he could have charted 52 times before, like things like that, and then they're just like. So like, the turn in the position.
Yeah.
I know. The turn in the position.
Such a big gap that people don't.
He didn't even talk about it anymore. He was just like, okay, next. Like, let's move on, because I'm not getting anywhere with this. So, like things like that, in some medical records, you can see that the chart is before or after, whatever, but not in all of them. So.
Right. Oh, that's a very good point. Appreciate that. That's very interesting. Okay. Well, like I said, we could talk about this all day, all week, and I would love to, but this is a podcast. Okay. So I would love to hear where people can find you. Obviously LinkedIn is where we found each other. So let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, so definitely LinkedIn, or you can just, shoot me an email. It's mariahagan23@gmail.com, or my phone number, 708-205-6854. If you call me and I answer, I might have like 3 kids behind me, but I will pay attention to you. I have a lot of kids, but I can always manage. I'm always available, and if I can't answer it, maybe I'm at the hospital, I will call you right back.
Awesome. Okay, well, I appreciate you sharing your journey. It's wonderful to get to know you even better as a person and as a nurse, and and as a legal nurse. So I appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us, and I look forward to staying connected and nerding out on all things audit trails in the future.
Yes. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I was so honored when I saw your message. I'm like, okay, this is my first podcast.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Thank you for joining us in this fun conversation on the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and empowering as I always do. And I hope that you share this episode with your friends. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you could leave us a review or comment, as I would love to share them in the future episodes. Or hop on over into my DMs and send me a quick message. I can be found on Instagram at anna.b.gray, on my website at limitlesslnc.com, and over on LinkedIn at anna.gray. And I want you to remember, you are limitless. Until next time.